about the morning of the campfire. What were you doing when you first heard about it?
So the morning of the campfire, I was dispatched out to a coroner's call here in Orrville. While we were out on the call, I could see the smoke coming up from Paradise, and I could hear kind of the desperation on the radio of the urgency of what was going on.
And what was your role that day then, in assisting with the campfire?
So after I returned to the office, I was dispatched to Butte College, where the coroner's unit was being established. And my sergeant told me that there were 4 burned out cars with 5 victims inside that needed to be recovered. When I was first dispatched, I was under the impression that I was going to be picking up 5 full bodies, sets of human remains. And when I got there, I found that the fire had burned so hot and so fast that what I was picking up were tiny bits of bone and ash. So for me, I wasn't really prepared for that. I'm an anthropologist and have been on several different burn cases in the past, but this driving through Paradise and seeing the ash fall from the sky, it looked like it was snowing. It was completely dark. Trees were falling, poles were burning, lines were falling on us. It looked like someone had dropped a bomb on Paradise.
What has your experience been with burn victims?
So I worked for the Chico State Human Identification Lab for about 3 years. And going out on to burn victims, you usually, you'll find them, but you'll still see the bone and they'll still be kind of intact. But what I was experiencing here was I would pick up a bone and it would just crumble to ash. Was kind of a new scenario for me, but reoccurred throughout the entire campfire.
When you got to these vehicles, what were you seeing? What did it smell like? What just if you could describe that?
When I first pulled up, I saw the 5 vehicles, and it looked like they, in their effort to escape, had kind of run into each other. And the very first vehicle I went to, looked like the man had tried to escape. So he was just outside the vehicle, and his dog was there as well. So I'm really good at compartmentalizing, so I kind of put my work hat on, and but it was different than anything I'd ever been to, just because I knew Paradise and I was familiar with the area, and so it was. What I was thinking was, are we going to find hundreds of victims? I mean, we just found 5 right here in this tiny spot. So I was very anxious about the days to come.
Prior to the campfire, what was your connection to Paradise?
Well, I've lived here in Butte County since 1980. We visit Paradise frequently. I had some relatives that lived up there that had passed away. We go up there, spend time. They have ice skating and things you can't do down here. So I was up in Paradise quite a bit, and it just was shocking to see what it looked like, and it just looked nothing like the Paradise I remembered.
The victims that you found in the 5 vehicles, what was the process then of what you said you put your work hat on? What's that process look like from there? I mean, what are you doing with the remains that you're collecting, or what was the process like?
So what we did was we labeled each vehicle and gave each set of remains a case number, and then we systematically went through the entire vehicles, collected everything that we could see. We were especially looking for teeth, dental work, any hardware that may have serial numbers on it, anything to identify these people. We were checking the VIN numbers. We were using Taco Bell hot sauce to take away the residue on top of the VIN numbers so we could get an accurate picture. We were collecting license plates. The human remains, unfortunately, I wasn't aware that they were bones, and so when we first arrived, we arrived with body bags, which wasn't what we needed. We needed paper bags, and so we kind of had to transition and make use of what we had for that first case, because we just had no idea what we were walking into.
You use Taco Bell hot sauce?
I did, yes.
Why? Why would you use that?
Well, actually, I got that tip from the Sacramento County Coroner's Office, Kim Jin, and for some reason, whatever's in the taco sauce just cleans it right off, cleans off all the residue, and so you can read that number.
So where did you just have lots of hot sauce with you?
Yeah, yeah, I actually had some in my car, so it worked out perfectly.
Wow, that's a crazy detail. The day after day one, day two, how many victims were you finding? I imagine you'd be receiving lots of calls.
Oh, yes. So dispatch was so inundated with phone calls of people trying to get help or trying to find their loved ones that we couldn't even use our radios. And then when we get up to Paradise, the cell reception went out too. So we had no way to communicate. So what we did, because we couldn't use dispatch, is that we utilized our coroner's investigative assistant, and we would just come down the hill, try to get reception, contact her, and she was kind of our point of contact for everything. So she, would tell us there's this missing person, they haven't been seen, this is their address, and then we would go to those locations and see if we could find people. Often we did. Most of the time that there was a missing person that still hadn't turned up, even 2 to 3 days after, when we went to their residence, we typically found them there.
I get the sense that you're very professional about your work, but did it ever affect you mentally after you come home at night? I mean, seeing this in every day, I mean, it's not something that normal people can handle.
Right, absolutely. So there was one case in particular where we went to a senior community, and everyone in the senior community had gotten out except for the people that lived in the separate houses from the community. And we did find a set of remains there. It happened to be a man who was trying to hide from the fire in his shower, and he had his little dog with him, and so we collected those remains. The tough part of that story for me was making contact with his son and talking to his son, and his son was just so appreciative and so grateful, and it just always tears at my heart every time I think of that particular man, and just thinking about these people trying to hide. Most of them were trying to hide from the fire, and there just was no way they were going to get out, just absolutely none. We were told the fire was moving 80 acres a minute, and there was just no way those people were going to get out.
When you contacted the son, did you have to contact him directly yourself?
Yes.
And what was that conversation like? Do you remember it?
So when we first contacted everybody, we were contacting them for DNA samples. So if you called in and said that your loved one was missing, we would ask you to give us a DNA sample. That way, if we did find remains, we would be able to compare. So the first time I called him was just to kind of let him know he's on our missing list. We'd like to get DNA samples. And then I feel like I kind of had a relationship with him, because over time I would have to contact him again and say, yes, it was your father. And he ended up coming here, and we were both crying. And, it's just that closure to finally finishing something was just incredible.
Did you have a lot of experiences like that with other people?
I had several experiences with that one. I'm not sure why that one's so close to my heart, but it is. But yeah, I've had contact with all of the family members. I am the campfire victim liaison, so they contact me, and it's tough and it's hard hearing their stories about, I was on the phone with her, 5 minutes before this happened. That to me was the hardest part, dealing with the living, not dealing with the dead.